I welcome you to another Tuesday teaching. I'm continuing on liberation and Black theology that I've started for some weeks. Today, specifically, I'll be teaching of Marxists, victimology, and liberation. And for those of you who are familiar with this channel, you know I always teach by using bullet points in presenting some of my teachings. That is, I use slides of PowerPoint presentation. I've prepared some slides in PowerPoint presentation that I want you to follow as I teach. My name is Josephine, and I'm the digital professor of languages, this Academy of Knowledge Economy. We've been teaching for over a year now, online on YouTube. And I want to thank those of you who have subscribed and those of you who are our viewers. And I want to appeal that those who are not yet subscribed, please do. And those of you who are still interested in master classes one-to-one, please reach out. So like I said, I'll be teaching today on Marxists, victimology, and liberation. Tuesday like this, I teach on one of the core courses in philosophy of religion and theology, because I hold a doctorate degree in theological studies. But Fridays, I also release videos on Fridays, which I tagged Friday Tonic. I speak on important germane issues, that are very critical and are very beneficial to our lives. Life lessons, things we need to know, things we need to do to have quality living. That's what I do on Fridays. So hold on for me as I share with you my PowerPoint presentation. Marxists, victimology, and liberation. And I'm specifically looking at Hopkins and Wright debates on this. So please follow me as I teach this. Chicago Divinity School says Black liberation theology often portrays Jesus as a brown-skinned revolutionary. He cited the words of Mary in the Magnificat, also known as the Song of Mary, in which he says, God intends to bring down the mighty and raise the lowly. In Matthew's book, Hopkins also notes that Jesus says the path to heaven is to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and visit the sick and the prisoners. And the central text for Black liberation theology can be found in chapter 4 of Luke's Gospel, where Jesus outlines the purpose of his ministry. Jesus says, my mission is to eradicate poverty and to bring about freedom and liberation for the oppressed. Hopkins says, and most Christian pastors in America skip over that part of the book, according to Hopkins. Hopkins attends Trinity United Church of Christ, where Reverend Wright had retired as pastor. In the famous sermon from 2003, Wright said, Black people's troubles are a result of racism that still exists in America. Crying out, no, 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 not God bless America, God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. According to Hopkins, that was theological wordplay, because the word "thou" is straight out of the Bible and has a specific meaning in the original Hebrew. It means a sacred condemnation by God to a wayward nation who has strayed from issues of justice, peace, and reconciliation, according to Hopkins. Black liberation theology encourages a victim mentality among the Blacks. John McWhorter's book, Losing the Race, is helpful here. Victimology, says McWhorter, is the adoption of victimhood as the core of one's identity. For example, like one who suffers through living in a country and live in a culture controlled by rich white people, it is a subconscious, culturally inherited affirmation that life of Blacks in America has been in the past and will be in the future, a life of being victimized by the oppression of whites. In today's terms, it is the conviction that Black conditions have not substantially changed over 40 years after the Civil Rights Act. As Wright intimates, for example, scores of Black men regularly get passed over by cab drivers, reducing Black identity to victimhood, distorts the reality of actual progress. The perpetual creation of a racial identity born out of self-loathing and anxiety often spends more time inventing reasons to cry racism than working towards changing social mores, and often inhibits movement toward reconciliation and positive mobility. McWhorter articulates three main objections to victimology. First, victimology condones weakness in failure. Victimology tactically stamps approval on failure. Lack of effort and criminology behaviors and self-destructive patterns are often approached as cultural or presented as unpreventable consequences from previous systemic patterns. Black liberation theologians are clear on this point. People are poor because they're victims of others, says Dr. Wright Hopkins, a Black liberation theologian teaching at the University of Chicago Divinity School. Second, victimology hampers progress because from the outset, it focuses attention on obstacles. And when you focus on obstacles, how then do you want to get the solution? For example, Black liberation theology focuses on the impediment of Black freedom in light of the Goliath of white racism. Third, victimology keeps racism alive because many whites are constantly painted as racist. Racism charges create a context for backlash and resentment, fueling new attitudes among whites not previously held or articulated, and creating separatism, a suspension of moral judgment in the name of racial solidarity. Black people who have been humiliated and oppressed by the structure of white society 6 days of the week gather each Sunday morning to experience another definition of their humanity, says James Cone in his book, Speaking the Truth, written in 1999. Many Black theologians believe that racism and socioeconomic oppression continue to augment the fragmentation between whites and Blacks. Historically speaking, it makes sense that Black theologians will struggle with conceptualizing social justice and the problem of evil as it relates to the history of colonialism and slavery in the Americas. Is Black liberation theology epic? That's a question for us to ponder on. Wright's liberation theology has tied up resentment, backlash, separatism, white guilt, caricature, and offense. Preaching to a congregation of middle-class Blacks about the victim identity invites a distorted view of reality, fosters nihilism, and divides rather than unites. Among all of the controversial comments by Jeremiah Wright, the idea of massive wealth redistribution is the most alarming. The code language, economic parity, and references to maldistribution is nothing more than channeling the twisted economic views of Karl Marx. Black liberation theologians have explicitly stated a preference for Marxism as an ethical framework for the Black church because Marxism's thought is predicated on a system of oppressor class, whites, versus victim class, Blacks. Black liberation theologians James Cone and Cornel West have worked diligently to embed Marxist thought into the Black church since the 1970s. For Cone, Marxism best addressed remedies to the condition of Blacks as victims of white oppression. In For My People, Cone explains, the Christian faith does not present its nature, the means for analyzing the structure of capitalism. More tools of social analysis can disclose the gap between appearance and reality, and thereby help Christians to see how things are. In God of the Oppressed, Cone said that Marx's chief contribution is his disclosure of the ideological character of Bongio's thought, indicating the connections between the ruling material force of society and the ruling intellectual force. Marx's thought is functional and attractive to Cone because it allows Black theologians to critique racism in America based on power and revolution. For Cone, integrating Marx into Black theology helps theologians see how much social perceptions determine their theological questions and conclusions. Moreover, these questions and answers are largely a reflection of the material given to a given society. In 1979, Cornel West offered a critical integration of Marxism theology in his essay. Black theology as Marxist thought because of the the way, when you look at it, the way of the shared human experience of oppressed peoples as victims. West sees a strong correlation between Black theology and Marxist thought because both focus on the plight of the exploited, oppressed, and degraded people of the world, their relative powerlessness and possible empowerment. This shared focus prompts West to call for a serious dialogue between Black theologians and Marxist thinkers that centers on the possibility of mutually arrived at political action. So in his book, Prophecy Deliverance, West believes that by working together, Marxists and Black theologians can spearhead much needed social change for those victims of oppression. He appreciates Marxism for its notions of class struggle, social contradictions, historical specificity, and dialectical developments in history that explain the role of power and white in bourgeois capitalist societies. A common perspective among Marxist thinkers is the bourgeois capitalist and perpetuate ruling class domination, which for Black theologians really means the domination and victimization of Blacks by whites. America has been overrun by white racism within mainstream establishment, churches, and religious agencies. Wright's West. Black liberation theology, originally intended to help the Black community, may have hurt many Blacks by promoting racial tension, victimology, and Marxism, ultimately leading to more oppression. As the failed war on poverty has exposed, the best way to keep the Blacks perpetually enslaved to government as the idea is to preach victimology and Marxism and to seduce Blacks into thinking that upward mobility is someone else's responsibility in a free society. I'm going to continue this next Tuesday teaching, but I want you to know this. Last month, February, we celebrated the Black history. you will see those legends of Black history who never allowed racism to deter their progress. And they contributed immensely to the progress, development of the United States of America. And that's why they are heroes of the Black history. So don't let us continue in the mental box of racism. Let us explore how we can contribute greatly to our country and make it better as a citizen. Thank you for joining me this week. Please join me on Friday for Friday Tonic and join me next Tuesday for another teaching. My name is Josephine. Once again, I'm your digital professor. I love you all. Just check my description link for further info you might need. And as I end this teaching today, I want you to join me in line with Jews. Thank you.